U.S. President Donald Trump has called on House Republicans to release the files related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in a major turnaround from his previous position. He wrote in a Truth Social post that, quote, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. I don't care, he said, about the release. This major shift comes as dozens of Republicans signaled they were ready to break ranks and vote to release the documents. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Scott Lucas here. He's a professor of American Studies at University College Dublin. He joins us from Wicklow in Ireland. So, Scott, until now, Trump has been against the release of the Epstein files. Why this turnaround?
Well, Terry, that's the easiest question of the day, because Donald Trump knew that on Tuesday he would lose the vote in the House, the lower chamber of the U.S. Congress, over the release of the files, and he might lose it by an embarrassing amount. Although only 4 Republicans joined the Democrats to force this vote, many more were just waiting for it to come, and then they would basically put their heads above the parapet and vote for the release of the files. That's not the end of the matter. It then has to go to the upper chamber, the U.S. Senate. But it knows that Trump, he was really on at least in terms of the news cycle, in a losing position. So he's trying to change the narrative this morning.
We know that Donald Trump's name is in the files. We know that from previously released email documents. How dangerous could this be for President Trump?
Well, I think there's 2 levels of this. I think, first of all, to say it's not like there's an immediate collapse of his position in the sense that he has not been seen to be complicit in the crimes of the pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. But there's just a steady erosion of his position because the latest emails establish that he lied about the extent of his relationship with Epstein. At the least, they put him inside Epstein's apartment, and they put him alongside at least one victim of Epstein's crimes, whether or not Trump knew she was a victim. That just undermines the position he's had for years, that it was only Democrats who have been identified as possibly breaking the law in the Epstein files. I think the erosion of the position is serious, even if it's just steady, because it's not, Democrats or his enemies within or his radicals who are unsettled by this. It's his own supporters who have stuck with him for years, who now are effectively thinking about breaking away from him, at least on this issue, because they feel betrayed.
So what can we expect in terms of the release of the files? Can we expect to see everything with no information blacked out?
Well, even if the files are released, there'll be information which will be redacted. And that's because these files, which are connected with the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein in Florida and then in New York, you have to protect, for example, victims. You have to protect sensitive sources. But your big question here is, will we ever see these files? The process is they go to the Senate. And I think Trump's signal now, which says, OK, go ahead, vote for them, means that Republicans in the Senate will also support this. But then it reaches his desk. And will Trump accept the release of the files, or will he swing again and veto the release, finding some pretext to do so, in which case you need a 2/3 vote in each of the House and the Senate. So I think we're still not there in the end of the process. We're at least weeks away. And because Trump's so temperamental, I don't want to make a firm prediction on whether or not he will support this until he's finally dragged kicking and screaming into accepting that they will see the light of day.
You mentioned Democrats earlier. Trump recently instructed the Justice Department to investigate prominent Democrats, their ties to Epstein. Could Donald Trump try to turn this, or will he try to turn this against his political opponents in this turnaround? And could that work?
I have no doubt Donald Trump will do that. I mean, that, again, for years when Trump was in opposition, was the narrative he fed his supporters, that it's the Democrats who are culpable. The problem here is that he doesn't really have, at least at this point, the evidence to back up that prosecution, or indeed you could say persecution, of his political enemies. For example, Bill Clinton, it is now established, took flights on Jeffrey Epstein's airplane, the so-called Lolita Express. However, there is no document, no evidence that Clinton was ever inside Epstein's house or inside his apartment. Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary, the emails that have just been released establish that, yes, he was a friend of Epstein. He communicated with Epstein after Epstein's first conviction down in Florida. And Summers has said that was wrong. He shouldn't have stayed so close to Epstein. But it goes no farther than that. And the idea that Bill Gates or Barack Obama's in the files, well, that's just Trump trying to throw mud on the wall and seeing if he can make it stick in your eye.
Scott, thank you very much. That was Professor Scott Lucas at University College Dublin. Thank you.
Thank you.